you know, I outperformed sales. That's why they gave me the extra money. So after that, you know, so I knew at that point, you know, it is about, you know, I got to get paid for this.
Yeah.
You know, I got to get paid for this. And so the next little bout that we had, you know, leaving vacation, because we felt stuck. You know, we wanted to make $100,000 a month. You know, we felt stuck at like, I was at like $20,000 a month or whatever. I don't know where Chad was, but we felt stuck. So we wanted to make more. And so, because it's limitations, $20,000 a month, great, but there's a lot of limitations on that. So I think our Marcus Live came out or whatever. So we started putting people in there.
Yeah.
And so that company, like, man, I think I had 300 people. Chad had 300 people. We never got paid. It was like a week and a whole type.
I remember
and
that.
The company fell in.
I remember that.
Man, I ain't gonna lie, that so annoying because I ain't get my money. But the good thing about it was we wasn't all in. We still had vacation. You know, and that still was paying us. So it was like, man, that. We're just gonna go back to vacation.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever. So we did that company with no check. But I'm not saying we ain't get no incentives. You know, we definitely got incentives though. You know, we joined Austin, Gossi or whatever. We definitely some incentives. You know,
I'm gonna stop you there. I remember this. So I'm gonna speak on this very quickly. So I remember I joined iMarcus Live too for a minute while we was at vacation with you and Chad.
Yeah.
And I never forget, we went to Miami. It was me, you, Chad, and my boy James came in a couple days later. We hopped in the whips down there. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember that.
We had been putting people in iMarcus Live, and we waiting on the check while we in Miami.
But that was a bad look.
Right? It never came. But we was just like, we still got vacation.
I told Chad that Gerald all the way. I said, Gerald ain't gonna do else, bro. Like, I already know it. I was like, he was like, bro, I know. All he can't say is, I know, bro. I know. You try to talk to him, bro. He gonna look at it different. You try to talk to him. Y'all got a different relationship.
Yeah.
You try to talk to him. I was like, bro, I don't know what I don't understand this. Bro, like, what I'm gonna tell him, bro? Like, I don't want to, bro. I want my money too. I'm feeling it, bro. Like so. I don't know what I can say to him because I'm gonna keep it real, bro. He ain't gonna like that.
Yeah.
So he ain't gonna like to hear he ain't getting no money for that. I don't want it, bro. So you know that was that situation, and so that was another thing. So that's when I realized also, like, you know, how fast it could be gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, because it was some people that hit $100,000 a month. And their money was gone overnight. Making $100,000 a month, money gone overnight. And y'all gotta understand, y'all think y'all know. You know, some people think y'all know. It's very few people that's gonna listen to this that actually know what it feel like. Because I done did it, win $100,000 a month and then lose that income. You know, or whatever. Ain't nothing else gonna pay you $100,000 a month. Yeah. So ain't nothing else gonna fit that bill. It's like being a ball player. You making millions of dollars a year. As that contract stop, you're not gonna get paid millions of dollars to talk on TNT.
True. You're
not gonna get $1 million to talk on Sports Center.
That's true.
They gonna give you hundreds of thousands, not millions.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And so, you know, so when I started realizing this stuff and I started looking around the industry and I started seeing people making more money than me, that I knew I could be making the same amount, that's where the greed came in. Right? Instead of, okay, I should have been working on certain things when I was stagnant. You know? Yeah. That I wasn't working on. Yeah. And so that's when the greed came in. But don't get me wrong, the greed, it was needed. You know, or whatever. And so I knew I needed more. I knew I could make more, you know. And so I would say the best way I could say it is, I don't know, you know, we got Mike Vick fans in here. I remember Vic saying, like, I was the last person. He's the last person to practice, first person to lead. That was that. Even though my work ethic was high, that was me, or whatever. And so that always cost me, or whatever. And so, long story short, you know, vacation was just like it was getting to a point where we seen the funeral. You know, before it happened. And so we had to join another company. And so I'm like, let's start our own company, even though knowing that we ain't had nothing, no resources, no nothing to be able to do that. And I don't mean money resources. I just mean like just the tech, just everything that I know now that I can do it now versus before. And so I remember I called Jeremy Monty. I don't know if Chad gave me his number or if I don't know how it happened, but I called Jeremy. I told him the idea of what I wanted to do. He's like, look, I want to do the same thing. How about I just make you guys part of the corporate staff, founding, you know, or whatever. And I said, well, you know, Jeremy, it's going to cost. You know, like, you got to pay me and you got to pay Chad. And you got to pay some other folks. Yeah. You know, and Jeremy said, oh, that's done. We got millions of dollars. We got $2 million budget. So at that time, I didn't understand the $2 million budget back then. $2 million, I'm like, oh, shit. all right, everything is done, but I didn't understand how quickly 2 million go. But long story short, so we get involved in that company, right? And so we're planning everything out. And so, there's a couple things I'm gonna tell right now that I hope people don't get mad at me for, but it is what it is. This happened. You feel me?
Yeah.
And so I remember in the formation of it, I remember I don't know how I got in talk with Jacob Mickle, you feel me, Jacob, or whatever. But I just knew he was gonna snitch on my ass or whatever. But I don't know why I gave him the information, but I gave him the information or whatever. I just knew he was gonna snitch because at that point, like I told you, a lot of people didn't like me from the filing stuff. So I learned how to move better. And so I just gave him the deets or whatever. I don't know if he called me. I forgot how it happened. But long story short, he was never under me. So it wasn't a situation where I was recruiting him or whatever. But long story short, I invited him to the initial dinner. Jacob was all in. Boom, Jacob all in. And I got to tell that story because the board happened after that. So, leaders we was in, and so I remember, at that same table, Shaniza being there, and, we cool now and but, there's some shit that happened. And so she ended up taking a screenshot of my phone or whatever, right? A screenshot of a picture of my phone and sent that to Trey Harris. Trey Harris snitched. He's like that damn played the flute, goddamn, like stool pigeon, like stool pigeon. Got on the stool and stood on that shit. Stood on the stool, bro, and snitched, bro. So really, it's Shaniza's fault because you screenshotted my phone. Yeah. So because when the screenshot got back, that's how I knew. Like, though, you took a picture of my phone. Yeah. So I knew who it was. I knew who I showed the phone to. So technically got my check cut for vacation when that happened. So technically, she was like, yeah, I'll pay you back. I'll pay you 3 bands, even though my check was way more than that. Yeah. I ain't never get the 3 bands. Dang. You feel me? I ain't never get the 3 bands. But, so obviously, I'm still owed for today. You feel me? And so, and everything I got to say right now, you feel me? If somebody want to come out here and dispute it or whatever, we can hop right back on another goddamn podcast and you can say that this did not happen and we can pull some receipts. Yeah.